The great hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with voices from 47 different species. Ambassador Lee Taeho stood at the center podium, his dark suit neat and proper as always. Behind him, his aide Park Min-soo held a datapad filled with documents that nobody would bother to read. Lee had been doing this job for 15 years. 15 long years of listening to aliens tell humans what they could and could not do. Today felt different, though. Today felt like something was about to break. The Vorlani delegate slithered forward on her long, snake-like body. Her name was Silith, and her golden scales caught the light as she moved. She had been the one pushing hardest against human interests, lately. Lee knew she was about to make another demand. "Honored council members," Silith said, her forked tongue flicking out as she spoke. "I present motion 4471 for immediate consideration. The human colonies on Kepler 442b and Proxima Centauri b must be evacuated within 60 standard days." Lee felt his jaw clench. These were not empty worlds that humans had stumbled upon. These were barren rocks that humans had spent decades turning into green living planets. Families lived there now. Children had been born there. It was home to over 2 million people. The reason? Lee asked, though he already knew what was coming. "These systems now fall within the newly declared Vorlani expansion zone," Silith replied with what might have been a smile if snakes could smile. "Our ancient territorial claims take precedence over recent human settlement." Ancient territorial claims. Lee had heard this excuse so many times he could recite it in his sleep. Every few months, some alien species would suddenly remember ancient claims to systems that humans had been living in for generations. The floating jellyfish-like creature from the Zephyrian collective pulsed with electric blue light. His voice came through a mechanical translator that made everything sound cold and emotionless. "Surely the humans understand basic galactic law," the Zephyrian said. "Junior species must respect the territorial rights of senior civilizations. This has been the way for thousands of years. Junior species." The words hit Lee like a slap. He had heard them countless times, but they never stopped stinging. Humans were junior species because they had only been in space for 300 years. It did not matter that human technology was more advanced than most other races. It did not matter that human medicine had saved billions of alien lives. It did not matter that human engineers kept half the galaxy running. What mattered was that humans were new, and new meant inferior. "Ambassador Lee," came another voice. This one belonged to a crystal being from the hegemony. The crystals were always polite, but their politeness felt like ice. "Surely you see the wisdom in maintaining established protocols. Change is difficult, but order must be preserved." Lee looked around the chamber. 46 alien faces stared back at him. Some showed pity, some showed annoyance. Most showed nothing at all. Not one showed respect. Behind him, Park Min-soo whispered urgently, "Sir, we have legal documentation proving human terraforming rights on both worlds. We can file a formal appeal." Lee almost laughed. A formal appeal. How many appeals had they filed over the years? How many carefully prepared legal documents had been dismissed because some senior species decided they wanted what humans had built? "The legal documentation is clear," Lee said aloud, his voice steady despite the anger building inside him. "Humans discovered these worlds in their natural state. We spent 40 years terraforming Kepler 442b and 35 years on Proxima Centauri b. We have full colonization rights under Article 12 of the Galactic Settlement Accords." Silith's scales rippled with what Lee had learned was Vorlani amusement. "Ambassador, the settlement accords clearly state that ancient territorial claims supersede terraforming rights. The Vorlani Empire held theoretical jurisdiction over these systems long before humans achieved spaceflight." "Theoretical jurisdiction," Lee repeated slowly. "Over empty systems with no life, no resources, and no Vorlani presence whatsoever. The presence of our claim markers has been established," Silith replied smoothly. Lee knew what those claim markers were. Tiny automated beacons, probably dropped into random systems just last week. It was a common trick. Find a successful human colony, drop some backdated markers into the system, then claim ancient territorial rights. The Andromedan representative chimed in with musical tones that the translator converted into words. Perhaps a compromise could be reached. The humans could relocate to systems more appropriate for junior species development. More appropriate. Lee knew what that meant. Worlds that nobody else wanted. Systems with dying stars or dangerous asteroid fields. Places where human colonies would struggle and fail, proving once again that humans were not ready for true galactic citizenship. Park Min-soo leaned forward again. Sir, we could propose a graduated withdrawal, offer to share mining rights, or establish joint governance. Lee had seen how that worked. Humans would do all the work while alien overseers took credit and profits. It was the same pattern everywhere humans went. Build something amazing, then watch aliens find reasons to take it away. The Vorlani position is final, Seeleth announced. Evacuation must begin immediately. Any delay will be considered a hostile act against a senior species. The threat was clear. Comply or face military action. Lee had seen it happen before. The glassing of New Sol when humans refused to abandon mining rights the Vorlani suddenly wanted. The trade embargo that starved the outer colonies until they agreed to relocate. Every time the Galactic Council had sided with the aliens. Every time humans had been told to understand their place in the galactic order. Every time humans had swallowed their pride and obeyed. Ambassador Lee, said the crystalline hegemony delegate, time is a factor here. The longer this debate continues, the more difficult the transition becomes for all involved. Lee looked at the crystal being. 3 years ago, human engineers had saved the hegemony homeworld when their sun started fluctuating. Human doctors had developed the medical technology that stopped a plague in their outer colonies. Human teachers had shared knowledge that advanced their civilization by centuries. And now this same species was politely suggesting that humans should hurry up and abandon their homes, because it would be more convenient for everyone. I see, Lee said quietly. Something in his tone made the chamber grow still. After 15 years of diplomatic service, Lee Tae-ho had developed a reputation for calm professionalism. He never raised his voice. He never lost his temper. He always found a way to make the best of bad situations. But 15 years of being treated like a servant while being expected to act like a partner had finally reached its limit. Lee reached into his jacket and pulled out a small communication device. The chamber watched as he activated it with deliberate precision. This is Ambassador Lee to Admiral Kim Yun-soo, he said clearly, his voice carrying across the silent chamber. Execute Protocol Omega immediately. Park Min-soo's eyes went wide. Protocol Omega was not a negotiating tactic. It was not a bluff. It was the nuclear option that nobody thought humans would ever actually use. Sir, Park whispered urgently, are you certain about this? Seeleth reared up on her coils, confusion and anger mixing in her yellow eyes. Ambassador Lee, what is the meaning of this theatrical display? Lee looked at her. Really looked at her. He saw a being who had spent her entire career treating humans like useful animals. A creature who demanded human aid when it benefited her species but showed nothing but contempt when humans asked for basic respect. The meaning, Delegate Seeleth, is that humanity withdraws from the Galactic Council effective immediately. The words fell into the chamber like stones into still water. For a moment, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The translation systems worked, frantically to make sure every species understood what they had just heard. All trade agreements are suspended, Lee continued, his voice growing stronger with each word. All defense pacts are canceled. All medical aid programs are terminated. All technological sharing agreements are void. Now the chamber erupted. Voices rose in dozens of languages, all expressing shock and outrage and disbelief. The Zephyrian delegate pulsed with angry red electricity. The Andromedan representative struck discordant notes that made the translator stutter. But Lee kept talking, his voice cutting through the chaos. Every human diplomat, every trade representative, every medical team, every engineering crew, and every teacher will be recalled immediately. As of this moment, humanity ceases all cooperation with galactic civilization. You cannot do this. The crystalline hegemony delegate chimed desperately. The economic disruption alone will affect hundreds of worlds. You are correct, Lee replied. It will, But that is no longer our problem. He turned toward the exit, Park Min-soo hurrying to keep up with him. Ambassador Lee, Seelith called after him, her voice sharp with panic now instead of arrogance. You must reconsider. The council is willing to negotiate. Lee stopped at the chamber doors and looked back at 46 alien faces that suddenly looked very different. The pity was gone. The annoyance was gone. Even the blank indifference was gone. For the first time in 15 years, Lee saw something he had never seen before in alien eyes when they looked at humans. Fear. The time for negotiation ended when you decided humans exist solely for you. Admiral Kim Yoon-soo stood on the bridge of the UFS Indomitable, watching her command displays light up with incoming signals. Across the entire galaxy, human ships were receiving the recall order that nobody had expected to actually use. Protocol. Omega was not just a withdrawal. It was humanity packing up everything they had built across known space and coming home. Admiral, called Commander Choi Hye-jin from the communications station. We have confirmation from 73 human vessels so far. The medical ship Mercy is requesting clarification on their current patients. Kim did not hesitate. Tell Captain Park that all alien patients are to be stabilized and transferred to local medical facilities immediately. No exceptions. She could see the shock on her crew's faces. The Mercy was currently treating a plague outbreak on Vega Colony. Thousands of alien lives hung in the balance. Under normal circumstances, abandoning patients would go against everything human medical ethics stood for. But these were not normal circumstances anymore. Ma'am, said Dr. Kang Subin from the science station, the agricultural stations in the Centauri system are asking about their contracts. They're in the middle of growing food for 12 different alien worlds. Cancelled, Kim replied without looking away from her displays. All contracts, all agreements, all partnerships. Tell them to harvest what they can for our own colonies, and abandon the rest. Lieutenant Hwang Dong-hyuk looked up from his console. Admiral, we're getting emergency requests from 17 different systems. The atmospheric processors on New Rigel are failing. The gravity generators on Altair Station need immediate repair. The water purification systems on 3 different worlds are breaking down. Kim finally turned from her displays to face her crew. These were good people. People who had spent their careers helping others. People who would normally drop everything to respond to distress calls. Lieutenant, for the past 3 centuries, human engineers have maintained the infrastructure that keeps hundreds of worlds livable. Human doctors have treated diseases that alien medicine cannot cure. Human teachers have shared knowledge that has advanced entire civilizations. She walked to the center of the bridge, her voice growing harder with each word. And what have we received in return? Our colonies relocated when aliens want our territory. Our trade agreements canceled when aliens find better deals. Our people treated like servants who should be grateful for the chance to serve their betters. The bridge fell silent except for the soft beeping of incoming distress signals. Today that ends, Kim continued. Today we stop being the galaxy's unpaid maintenance crew. If they want our help, they can learn to treat us as equals first. Commander Choi raised her hand hesitantly. Admiral, the humanitarian implications are staggering. Millions of beings depend on human medical aid. Entire worlds rely on our atmospheric processors. Yes, they do, Kim agreed. And for 300 years we have provided that aid freely while being told we are too junior to deserve respect. Well, let them learn what junior species are actually capable of. On the main screen, tactical displays showed human ships throughout the galaxy changing course. Medical vessels abandoning their missions. Trade ships dumping their cargo. Research stations powering down and preparing to evacuate. The galaxy had become dependent on human help. Now they were about to discover just how dependent they really were. Admiral, Lieutenant Huang reported. Incoming transmission from the merchant vessel Golden Star. Captain Lee says the Andromedan trading station is refusing to let them leave. They're demanding the humans complete their delivery contracts first. Kim's expression went cold. Patch me through to Captain Lee. The screen flickered to show a middle-aged man with worried eyes standing on a cargo ship's bridge. Behind him, Kim could see the blue glow of Andromedan energy weapons through the viewports. Captain Lee, what is your situation? Admiral, the Andromedans have surrounded my ship with patrol vessels. They're insisting we complete delivery of the quantum processors before they'll let us go. They say breaking the contract would be a violation of galactic trade law. Kim felt her anger. Spike, even now, even after humanity had announced their withdrawal, the aliens still thought they could force humans to serve them. Captain, are your weapons online? Yes, ma'am. But Admiral, these are trade vessels. We're not equipped for military action. You won't need to fight, Captain. Just hold position. Kim turned to her tactical officer. Commander Nam, how long until we reach the Andromedan system? 18 minutes at maximum warp, Admiral. Take us there, and signal the battle group to follow. As the Indomitable jumped to hyperspace, Kim opened a channel to the Andromedan trading station. The screen showed a tall, crystalline being whose blue light pulsed with agitation. Kim recognized the body language. The Andromedans were scared. Admiral Kim, the alien said in musical tones that the translator rendered as nervous speech. Surely there has been some mistake. Captain Lee has contractual obligations that cannot be simply abandoned. Trademaster Velcor, Kim replied, using the alien's title. Let me explain something about human contracts. They require willing participants. As of today, humanity is no longer willing to participate in any agreements.
With species that treat us as subordinates.
But the quantum processors are desperately needed. Our medical facilities will fail without them. Then you should have thought of that before supporting every motion to relocate human colonies, Kim said coldly. Captain Lee, you are cleared to depart immediately. Admiral, the patrol ships are still blocking our path. Not for long. The Indomitable dropped out of hyperspace with 6 escort vessels. The human battle group took positions around the trading station, their weapons powered but not yet aimed. The effect was immediate. The Andromedan patrol ships scattered like startled fish. Trademaster Velcor, Kim said sweetly, I believe. Captain Lee is now free to go. The crystalline being's light flickered with panic. Admiral, please reconsider. The medical crisis alone will cost thousands of lives. Surely humanitarian concerns outweigh political disputes. Kim almost laughed. Humanitarian concerns? Where were your humanitarian concerns when human colonies were being relocated? Where was your compassion when human families were forced from their homes to make room for alien expansion? She leaned forward in her command chair. For 3 centuries, humanity has prioritized humanitarian concerns while being treated like disposable servants. Today you learn what happens when we prioritize ourselves instead. The transmission ended, leaving the Andromedan to contemplate empty space where human aid used to be. Captain Lee's voice came through the communication system. Admiral, we're clear of the system. Thank you for the rescue. No thanks needed. Captain, get your crew home safely. As the human ships departed, Kim watched the trading station grow smaller on her screen. She could imagine the panic spreading through their systems as they realized the quantum processors they desperately needed were flying away. Admiral, Dr. Kang said quietly, the moral implications of this decision will haunt us. We're abandoning beings who need our help. Kim turned to face the doctor. Dr. Kang, let me ask you something. How many human colonies have been relocated to make room for alien expansion? 47 confirmed cases, ma'am. How many human trade agreements have been canceled when aliens found better deals elsewhere? 133 instances, on record. How many times has the Galactic Council sided with humans in territorial disputes? Dr. Kang's voice was barely a whisper. Never, Admiral. Never, Kim repeated. Not once in 300 years of faithful service. Not once in 3 centuries of saving alien lives and advancing alien civilizations. We have been the galaxy's servants, and servants do not get to make moral demands of their masters. She gestured toward the screen where more human ships were visible, all heading toward human space. Today we stop being servants. If the galaxy wants our help again, they can learn to ask as equals rather than demand as superiors. Commander Choi looked up from her station. Admiral, we're receiving distress signals from 43 different systems now. Medical emergencies, infrastructure failures, food shortages, all requesting immediate human assistance. Log them all, Kim replied. but do not respond. From this moment forward, human space is closed to alien vessels. Any attempt to enter our territory without permission will be considered an act of aggression. And if they try to force their way in, Kim's smile was as cold as space itself. Then they'll discover why humanity has never lost a war. The Indomitable continued on its course toward human space, followed by hundreds of other vessels carrying humans home from a galaxy that had taken their service for granted. Behind them, emergency signals continued to flood the communication channels. Pleas for help. Demands for assistance. Threats and bribes and desperate offers of negotiation. But humanity was no longer listening. For the first time in 300 years, humans were putting themselves first. The galaxy was about to learn what that meant. 3 months had passed since the humans disappeared from the galaxy. Trademaster Veltar stood in his empty warehouse on Nexus Prime, staring at cargo bays that once bustled with activity. The silence was deafening. His assistant Quex shuffled, forward on 6 legs, clutching a datapad with shaking tentacles. The small Altarian looked like he had not slept in weeks. Master Veltar, the mining stations on Rigel 7 are offering 10 times normal price for gravity generators. The agricultural worlds are fighting each other for atmospheric processors. The hospitals on 12 different planets are running out of human medicine. Veltar's 4 eyes blinked slowly. Each blink felt like lifting heavy weights. His species had built their fortune on trading human goods across the galaxy. Now there were no human goods to trade. What about alternatives? Veltar asked, though he already knew the answer. The Zephyrian gravity generators break down after 6 months instead of lasting 50 years. Vorlani atmospheric processors cannot handle the complex chemistry needed for terraforming. As for medicine, Quex's voice trailed off. Say it. Master, human medical technology was centuries ahead of everyone else. Their regenerative drugs, their surgical equipment, their diagnostic systems. Without them, the death rates are climbing every day. Before Veltar could respond, the warehouse doors burst open. Counselor Thexra stormed in, her massive beetle-like form clicking across the metal floor. Her usually shiny carapace was dull and scratched.
Veltar, I need every human medical device in your emergency stockpile. Now. For what purpose, Counselor? The life support systems for Orbital Station Gamma are failing. 40 million beings live there. Without human quantum cores to repair,
The systems, they will all suffocate within days. Veltar felt his stomach drop. Counselor, we sold the last of our emergency supplies last month to prevent the food crisis on Kepler Colony. There are no more human goods anywhere. Thexra's mandibles clicked rapidly in panic. Then contact the humans directly. Offer them anything they want. Quex stepped forward nervously. We tried, Counselor. Human space is completely sealed. They have created a 50-light-year exclusion zone around all their territory. No alien ships are allowed inside. Then send a message through subspace. We have tried that too, Veltar said sadly. Every species has been trying to contact them for months. The humans have gone completely silent, no responses to any communications. It is like they have vanished from the galaxy. Thexra collapsed onto her haunches, the fight going out of her. How many more systems are in crisis? Quex consulted his datapad with trembling tentacles. 17 major trade routes have collapsed. Completely. The agricultural worlds are facing massive crop failures without atmospheric processors. Medical facilities on over 200 planets are shutting down. The mining stations cannot operate without human gravity control systems. Meanwhile, in the great chambers of the Galactic Council, emergency sessions had been running day and night for months. The Grand Assembly Hall that once hosted dignified debates now looked like a disaster command center. Chancellor Morden stood before a holographic display showing the spreading crisis across known space. His crystal form had dimmed to a pale blue, indicating severe stress. Red warning lights marked failed systems, yellow showed worlds in crisis, and black indicated complete collapse. The economic projections are clear, Morden announced in musical tones that cracked with strain. Within 6 months, the Galactic Trade Network will suffer total breakdown. Agricultural worlds dependent on human atmospheric technology are reporting crop failures across entire continents. The medical crisis grows worse every day as supplies run out. Seleth coiled nervously in her speaking area. The Vorlani delegate, who had started this whole crisis with her territorial demands, now looked like a shadow of her former arrogant self. Her golden scales had faded to dull brown. "Surely this is temporary," she said, but her voice lacked conviction. "The humans are emotional creatures. They will return when they realize how much damage they are causing." Damage they are causing? The voice belonged to Elder Zixna of the Ethereal Collective. The floating, ghost-like being rarely spoke in council sessions. When she did, everyone listened. "Delegate Seleth, your territorial demands began this crisis. The humans are not causing this damage. We are experiencing the consequences of our own actions." Seleth's scales flushed with defensive colors. "My species had legitimate claims to those systems. Legitimate claims to worlds the Vorlani had. Never visited, never developed, never even surveyed until humans spent decades turning barren rocks into garden worlds." Elder Zixna replied coldly. "Claims that mysteriously appeared only after human colonies became successful." The chamber fell uncomfortably silent. "For 300 years, the Elder continued, humans have been the galaxy's problem solvers. Medical crises, technological challenges, infrastructure failures, food shortages. Who did we call every time? The humans. And what did we give them in return? No one answered. Contempt, condescension, forced relocations. We called them junior species while depending on their superior technology to keep our worlds running. We treated them like servants while they held our entire civilization together." The Zephyrian delegate pulsed with electrical distress. They were bound by treaty to provide assistance. Treaties they honored faithfully despite our constant abuse. "Tell me, how many human requests for fair treatment did this council approve? How many times did we side with human interests in territorial disputes?" The silence stretched longer this time. "I will tell you," Elder Zixna continued. "Zero. Not once in 3 centuries did this council treat humans as equals. 47 territorial disputes, all decided against humanity. 31 forced colony relocations. Hundreds of trade agreements canceled when other species offered better terms." Her ethereal form pulsed with sadness. "And through it all, the humans continued to help us. They saved our worlds, cured our diseases, solved our problems, and asked for nothing more than basic respect. They are one species among dozens," Seleth protested weakly. "One species whose technology keeps our atmosphere breathable, our sick healing, our crops growing, our trade routes functioning." Elder Zixna's voice grew harder. "One species that we pushed too far because we forgot that even the most patient beings have limits." The Great Display updated with new crisis reports. Food shortages spreading across 12 systems. Medical facilities shutting down on 30 worlds. Critical infrastructure failing throughout the galaxy. Chancellor Mordun studied the display with growing horror. "The question we must answer is simple. How long can galactic civilization survive without humanity? Based on current trends," reported Secretary General Yith from his position at the data console, "major population centers will begin experiencing critical shortages within 3 months. Complete infrastructure collapse is projected for 8 to 12 months across most systems. And the humans? Long-range sensors indicate massive construction projects throughout human space. They appear to be building completely self-sufficient infrastructure, agricultural stations, manufacturing, facilities, medical centers. They are preparing for permanent isolation." Elder Zixna's form flickered with grim understanding. "They are not planning to come back. This is not a negotiating tactic or an emotional outburst. Humanity has decided to build their own civilization. Apart from us." The chamber erupted in panicked voices. Delegates from dozens of species began speaking at once, their various forms of communication creating chaos. "Silence," Chancellor Mordun commanded, his crystal form flaring with authority. When quiet returned, he addressed the assembly with a voice heavy with regret. "We are witnessing the collapse of everything we built, and it is entirely our own fault. We created a system where the most capable species was treated as the least important. We demanded service while offering only scorn. He gestured at the crisis reports filling the display. This is not humanity punishing us. This is us discovering what we actually were without them. So what do we do? Asked the Andromedan representative, her musical tones discordant with fear. We learn, Elder Zixna replied. We learn what the galaxy looks like when the species we called servants decide they no longer wish to serve. As the session ended and delegates returned to their failing worlds, the truth became impossible to ignore. The galaxy had not just lost humanity's help, they had lost the foundation that held their entire civilization together, and the silence from human space suggested that foundation was never coming back. 6 months after humanity vanished from the galaxy, Captain Oh Sung-min sat on the bridge of the UFS Horizon, watching his sensors track another desperate convoy approaching human space. It was the 23rd one this week. Sir, reported Lieutenant Namji Wu from Tactical, mixed fleet approaching the exclusion zone boundary. Andromedan medical ships, Centaurian cargo vessels, and 3 Vorlani heavy cruisers as escort. The same species that demanded our colonies now want our help, observed Commander Yang So-young from the science station. Her voice carried the bitter edge that had become common among human crews since the withdrawal. Captain O nodded grimly. Open a channel. Give them the standard warning. Nam activated communications.
Alien vessel, you are approaching the human exclusion zone. Turn back immediately or face defensive action. The response came quickly through emergency frequencies. The voice belonged to a Centaurian, their universal translator conveying desperate
emotion across species barriers. Human vessel, I am Transport Captain Quindar. We carry medical supplies for the plague outbreak on Kepler 186F. 14 million beings are dying. We are not asking for human aid. We only need passage through your territory to reach the affected system. O felt something twist in his stomach. Kepler 186F had been one of the first systems to request human medical assistance after the withdrawal began. They had been refused, like all the others. Captain, Yang said quietly, our sensors show their cargo holds contain obsolete Andromedan medical equipment. It will not work against the plague strain. Only human biotechnology can handle this type of outbreak. I know, O replied, his voice hard. He opened the channel again. Captain Quindar, your request is denied. Human space is closed to all alien vessels. Turn back immediately. Please. The Centaurian's voice cracked with emotion. My own daughter is on that world. She was studying at their university when the outbreak began. I am begging you, just let us try. Lieutenant Nam exchanged glances with her captain. The bridge crew had heard dozens of these pleas over the months. Each one was a knife twist of guilt and anger. Guilt for the suffering they could prevent. Anger at the species who had forced this situation. Before O could respond, his communications officer looked up urgently. Sir, priority transmission from Earth Command. Admiral Kim wants to speak with you directly. The main screen showed Fleet Admiral Kim Yun-soo in her Luna Station office. Through the windows behind her, Earth hung in space like a blue-green jewel. It had become a symbol of humanity's withdrawal from galactic affairs. Captain O, I understand you are dealing with another Mercy convoy. Yes, Admiral. Plague outbreak on Kepler 186F. They are requesting passage, not direct aid. And your response? Denied, as per standing orders. Admiral Kim leaned forward, her expression stone cold. Good. Captain, I want you to understand something. In my 20-year career, I have watched human colonies get destroyed by alien warships while the Galactic Council debated the territorial rights of species that barely had spaceflight. I have seen human children starve because senior species imposed trade sanctions on our worlds. I have buried friends who died defending alien worlds that refused to acknowledge our right to exist. She paused, her voice growing harder. They called us servants. They treated us like we existed only for their benefit. Now they get to learn what the galaxy looks like without their servants. Admiral, O said carefully, the casualty reports are mounting. Entire systems are collapsing. I know, Captain, and I feel for every being that suffers, but their suffering is not our responsibility anymore. They made that clear when they consistently chose to deny our basic rights while demanding our aid. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in uncomfortable silence. "Sir," Yang reported, "the convoy is holding position at the boundary. They are not leaving." Oh closed his eyes. "Any change in their escort's posture?" "The Vorlani ships are powering weapons. That decided it." "Battle stations. If they want to force their way through, they will learn the same lesson their patrol fleet learned months ago." But before the Horizon could respond, proximity alarms screamed throughout the bridge. The tactical display exploded with new contacts. Dozens of ships dropping out of hyperspace around the alien convoy. "Sir?" Nam's voice was sharp with surprise. "Multiple contacts. I count 87 alien vessels of various classes surrounding the convoy." On the main screen, the image shifted to show a massive alien fleet, ships from a dozen different species all focusing their weapons on the small medical convoy. "What is happening?" Yang muttered. Lieutenant Lee at Communications looked up from his console. "Sir, we are receiving a broadcast on all frequencies. It is from the alien fleet." On screen, a figure appeared on the display, tall and ethereal, with the flowing energy patterns of an ethereal collective elder. But this elder's usual calm was replaced by cold fury. "Attention, human vessel. I am Elder Vexthu of the Collective. The convoy you see before you represents the final attempt by several systems to acquire human medical aid through deception and force." Captain O blinked in surprise. "Elder, what is the Collective's interest in this matter?" "Captain, for 6 months we have watched the galaxy burn while former allies try to manipulate or coerce humanity into returning. This convoy represents 18 different systems that voted to deny human territorial claims while demanding human aid. They are the architects of this crisis." The Elder's image flickered as his fleet's weapons powered up. "The Ethereal Collective has studied human history, Captain. We understand that your species values justice above convenience. These beings are about to learn what justice looks like." "Elder, wait." But it was too late. The collective fleet opened fire with overwhelming force. The Centaurian medical ships, the Andromedan cargo vessels, and even the Vorlani heavy cruisers were reduced to expanding clouds of debris within minutes. The bridge of the Horizon fell silent as the alien fleet powered down weapons and began dispersing. "Elder," O said, his voice strained, "there were 14 million beings dying on Kepler 186F. "Yes, Captain." And Captain Quindar knew that obsolete Andromedan medicine would not save them. This convoy was never about mercy. It was about forcing you to break your withdrawal so they could resume exploiting human generosity. The Elder's image began to fade. "The Collective stands with humanity, Captain. The galaxy created this crisis through arrogance and contempt. Now the galaxy will face the consequences." As the transmission ended, O stared at the debris field where the convoy had been. The sick feeling in his stomach had grown worse. "Sir," Yang said quietly, "we are receiving distress signals from Kepler 186F. The plague has reached critical phase. They have perhaps days before total societal collapse." Captain O closed his eyes and thought of Captain Quindar, who had died, trying to save his daughter with medical equipment that never would have worked. He thought of the 14 million beings facing death because their government had consistently voted against human interests while depending on human aid. But he also thought of the human colonies that had been relocated, attacked, and abandoned by the very species now begging for help. "Noted in the log," he said finally. "But maintain the exclusion zone. Admiral Kim was right. They made this choice when they decided we were servants instead of equals." As the Horizon turned away from the debris field, O could not shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. More alien fleets were taking sides, some supporting the humans by attacking those who had abused them, others preparing to force humanity back into their servile role. The galaxy was fracturing along lines that had been invisible when humans were there to hold everything together. "Captain," Nam reported, "long-range sensors are detecting fleet movements throughout the sector. It looks like several species are mobilizing for military action." "Against us?" "Unknown, sir, but the patterns suggest preparation for large-scale conflict." O nodded grimly. "Signal Admiral Kim. Tell her the galaxy is choosing sides and not all of them are on our side." Behind them, space was littered with the wreckage of alien desperation. Ahead of them, the exclusion zone boundary glowed on their sensors like a barrier between humanity and a galaxy that was slowly tearing itself apart. The aliens had pushed humanity too far. Now they were learning that the consequences extended far beyond losing human aid. They were losing the peace that human patience had preserved for 3 centuries. 1 year after humanity withdrew from the galaxy, the Galactic Council chambers looked like a tomb. Half the seats sat empty because entire species could no longer afford to maintain representatives. The other half were filled with beings who looked like survivors of a disaster. Chancellor Morden's crystal form had dimmed to a sickly pale color that indicated his species was near complete breakdown. Around him, the remaining council members hunched in their seats like refugees. Secretary General Yeath stood at the central podium, his insect-like features twitching with nervous exhaustion as he read from his datapad. "The latest casualty reports," he announced with a voice that shook. "The Rigel Confederation has collapsed completely. Total governmental breakdown following the failure of their atmospheric systems. The survivors are being evacuated to refugee camps on 17 different worlds." "How many survivors?" asked Councillor Thexra. Her once impressive beetle form was now hunched and scarred from stress. 2.3 billion beings. The number fell into the chamber like a stone into still water. "The medical crisis continues to worsen," Secretary General Yeath continued. "The Andromedan Republic reports that 63% of their medical facilities have shut down completely. The Kepler systems are experiencing total societal breakdown. Casualty estimates are approaching 50 million beings." Silith, the Vorlani delegate whose territorial demands had started this catastrophe, coiled in her speaking area like a dying snake. Her once brilliant golden scales had turned muddy brown with shame and fear. "There must be alternatives," she said weakly. "Other species with advanced medical technology." "There are no alternatives," Elder Zixna interrupted sharply. "For 3 centuries we allowed humanity to carry the burden of galactic infrastructure. We became dependent on their technology, their medicine, their problem-solving abilities, while treating them like inferiors who should be grateful to serve us." Chancellor Morden flickered through several color spectrums before settling on angry red. "The question remains, what do we do now?" "Now?" Elder Zixna's laugh sounded like breaking crystal. "Now we face the consequences of our arrogance. Did anyone truly believe that a species capable of terraforming dead worlds and curing diseases we could not even understand would accept being treated as servants forever?" Before anyone could respond, emergency alarms began echoing through the chamber. The main display lit up with tactical warnings as the station's AI announced multiple contacts dropping out of hyperspace. 37 vessels approaching, the AI reported. Configuration suggests human ships. They are requesting permission to dock. The assembled delegates fell completely silent. It had been over a year since any human ship had been seen outside their exclusion zone. "How is this possible?" Secretary General Yeath whispered. "Patch through their transmission," Chancellor Morden ordered. The main screen showed the bridge of a human vessel. Admiral Kim Yun-soo sat in the captain's chair, looking exactly as controlled and professional as she had a year ago when humanity vanished from galactic affairs. "Council members," she said without warmth or ceremony. "I am Admiral Kim Yun-soo of the United Human Fleet. We have come to discuss the current situation." Chancellor Mordoon's color shifted to hopeful yellow. "Admiral Kim, the Council is prepared to negotiate terms for your return to galactic civilization." "You misunderstand our purpose," Admiral Kim replied coldly. "We are not here to negotiate a return to the old system. We are here to present new terms for future interaction." Silith's scales rippled with what little indignation she could still manage. "You cannot dictate terms to the entire galaxy." Admiral Kim's expression did not change. "Representative Silith, in the past year, your species has lost 14 colony worlds to infrastructure failure. Your home system's life support is running on backup power that will fail within 3 months. You are in no position to object to anything." The Vorlani delegate recoiled as if struck. Around the chamber, other representatives shifted uncomfortably. Each knew their own species' crisis statistics, and none were in better shape. "What are your terms?" Elder Zixna asked, quietly. "First, complete recognition of human territorial sovereignty. No more forced relocations. No more territorial disputes. No more treating human colonies as bargaining chips for senior species politics." Admiral Kim leaned forward slightly. "Second, establishment of the Human Medical and Technology Consortium. Any species wanting access to human medicine or technology will purchase it through fair trade agreements. No more demands for aid as tribute to your superior status." The chamber stirred with worried murmurs. "Third, formal apology from every species that voted to deny human territorial claims while simultaneously demanding human aid. Fourth, reparations for the 47 colony relocations we were forced to accept and compensation for 3 centuries of discriminatory trade practices." The chamber erupted. Delegates from dozens of species began speaking at once, their various forms of communication creating a storm of outrage, desperation, and disbelief. "Silence," Chancellor Mordun commanded, his form blazing with authority. When quiet returned, he addressed Admiral Kim directly. "These terms are extensive. What happens if we refuse?" Admiral Kim's smile was as cold as the space between stars. "Then you continue dealing with your crises without human involvement. We have spent the past year building completely self-sufficient infrastructure within our territory. We can survive indefinitely without galactic trade." "And us?" Secretary General Yith asked, his voice barely audible. "Based on current projections, the Andromedan Republic has 6 months before complete societal collapse. The Centaurian Commercial Guild will fall within the year. The Vorlani Empire has 3 months, assuming you can repair your life support systems." "You are talking about genocide," Counselor Thexra said, her carapace clicking with agitation. "No," Admiral Kim replied with steel in her voice. "We are talking about the natural consequences of your choices. Genocide is what the Vorlani tried to do to our new Sol colony. What is happening now is simply the galaxy learning to function without the species it treated as servants." Elder Zixna raised one ethereal hand. "Admiral, the collective was not party to the territorial disputes or the dismissive treatment humanity received. We maintained neutral relations." "Neutral," Admiral Kim repeated. "Yes, the collective maintained neutrality while watching other species abuse humanity for centuries. That is not much better than active participation." The elder's form flickered with shame. "Point taken. What would convince humanity to provide aid during this transition period?" "Full acceptance of our terms, immediate implementation of the new framework, and a demonstration that the galaxy has learned from this crisis." Chancellor Mordun had shifted to a deep purple that indicated intense concentration. "Admiral, you are asking us to completely restructure galactic civilization." "No, Chancellor. We are asking you to acknowledge what galactic civilization should have been all along. A community of equals rather than a hierarchy designed to exploit the most capable species." She leaned back in her chair with finality. "You have 48 hours to provide a response. After that, we return to our territory, and the exclusion zone remains in effect indefinitely." The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. Finally, Secretary General Yith found his voice. "So the question is no longer whether we can survive without humanity. The question is whether we can swallow our pride enough to accept what we should have offered them centuries ago." Elder Zixna's form pulsed with resigned understanding. "Respect. They are asking for simple respect." "The terms are harsh," Counselor Thexra observed. "The terms are fair," Elder Zixna corrected. "We spent 3 centuries treating them unfairly while they saved our worlds and advanced our civilizations. Now they offer us a chance to build something better based on equality instead of exploitation." Chancellor Mordun's color had stabilized into determined blue. "All in favor of accepting the human terms?" One by one, hands and tentacles and appendages rose throughout the chamber. Even Seleth, after a long moment of internal struggle, raised her scaled arm in acceptance. The vote was unanimous. "So be it," Chancellor Mordun announced. "The Galactic Council accepts the terms presented by the Human Federation. May this mark the beginning of a new era based on mutual respect rather than hierarchical exploitation. Outside the station, 37 human ships maintained silent watch. They had not come to conquer or to gloat. They had come to offer the galaxy one final chance to learn from its mistakes. The age of galactic servants was ending. The age of galactic partners was about to begin. Part 6. The New Equilibrium. 2 years after the Great Withdrawal, Ambassador Lee Tae-ho stood once again in the Galactic Council chambers. But everything had changed. The chamber itself looked completely different. Gone was the old arrangement that placed senior species in positions of power over junior ones. The new circular design put all representatives on equal footing. The human delegation no longer sat in a corner like servants waiting for orders. They sat as equals among equals. More importantly, many of the faces that had made humanity's previous experience so painful were gone. Selith and her Vorlani supremacist faction had been voted out after their home system nearly collapsed. The arrogant Zephyrian delegate had been replaced by someone who understood cooperation. The Andromedan representatives who had consistently voted against human interests were now refugees on other worlds. Chancellor Morden, whose crystal form now glowed with healthy light, called the session to order. The Council recognizes Ambassador Lee Tae-ho of the United Human Federation. Lee stood feeling the weight of history. 2 years ago he had walked out of this chamber in disgust. Today, he returned to sign the most comprehensive peace agreement in galactic history. Thank you, Chancellor. The Human Federation is pleased to announce the successful completion of the first phase of the Galactic Reconstruction Initiative. He activated a display showing recovery statistics across known space. Medical aid has been restored to all systems that signed the new Galactic Accords. Infrastructure support is proceeding ahead of schedule. Fair trade agreements are functioning under the new framework. Around the chamber, representatives from dozens of species nodded with genuine gratitude. These were not the same arrogant figures who had dismissed humanity for centuries. Some were literally different people, as several species had undergone complete governmental changes during the crisis. Others were the same individuals who had learned humility through suffering. However, Lee continued, his tone becoming serious, 3 systems continue to reject the new framework and demand a return to the old hierarchical structure. The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew which systems he meant. Representative Quicksall of the reformed Vorlani Republic spoke up. His species, new government, had completely rejected the territorial expansion policies that started the crisis. Ambassador Lee, the 3 holdout systems represent the old guard, species that profited most from the previous unfair arrangements. Their populations suffer while their leaders maintain ideological positions that no longer serve anyone. That is their choice to make, Lee replied firmly. But let me be absolutely clear, there will be no return to the old system. Humanity will not resume the role of galactic servants regardless of the consequences for those who refuse to accept equality. Elder Zixna, now serving as the Council's ethics advisor, added her support. The transformation has been difficult, but necessary. For the first time in galactic history, we have true cooperation instead of a colonial structure disguised as diplomacy. Chancellor Morden shifted to warm golden light. The evidence supports this assessment. Interspecies conflicts are at the lowest level in recorded history. Technology sharing has accelerated under the new trade protocols. Medical advances are being distributed more fairly and efficiently than ever before. Dr. Song Min Jung, Humanities, new medical consortium representative, provided her report. We are seeing unprecedented collaboration in research. The joint Andromedan Human Quantum Medical Project has produced treatments that neither species could have developed alone. The Zephyrian Human Atmospheric Engineering Program has terraformed 6 worlds in half the time it used to take. From across the chamber, Admiral Oh Sung-min, now promoted and serving as humanity's military liaison, gave the security update. The exclusion zone has been lifted from all systems that accepted the new framework. Human patrol fleets now operate in joint missions with former adversaries. The old territorial disputes have been replaced by cooperative security arrangements. It was true. The galaxy that emerged from the crisis was fundamentally different from the one that existed before, humanity's withdrawal. But not everyone was happy with the changes. The Chamber's emergency communication system activated with an incoming priority transmission. Chancellor Morden accepted the connection, and 3 figures appeared on the main display that made the entire assembly tense. Supreme Commander Thrax of the Hegemony Remnants, Overlord Zektar of the Dominion Holdouts, War Leader Vexion of the Supremacist Coalition, the leaders of the 3 systems that refused to accept the new galactic order. Council of Equals, Thrax said with obvious contempt for the Chamber's new name. We come to deliver an ultimatum. Ambassador Lee felt his muscles tense, but his diplomatic training kept his expression calm. The Council recognizes your transmission. Please state your message. The natural order of galactic civilization will be restored, Overlord Zektar announced, his cybernetic implants glowing with aggressive red light. Senior species have ruled this galaxy for millennia. We will not bow to upstart humans and their sympathizers. War Leader Vexion stepped forward, his battle-scarred form imposing even through holographic display. Our combined fleets have merged into the Restoration Armada. We demand immediate return to hierarchical governance, dissolution of human territorial claims, and resumption of proper species roles. The chamber stirred with worried murmurs, but Elder Zixna's calm voice cut through the noise. You speak of restoration, but what you describe is a return to exploitation and oppression. The old system failed catastrophically. That is why we are here rebuilding something better. The old system failed because inferiors were given too much influence, Thrax snarled. That mistake will be corrected. Admiral O leaned forward. Are you threatening military action against the Council? We are promising it, Vexion replied. You have 72 hours to begin dismantling your equality experiment, or our Armada will begin liberating systems by force. The transmission ended, leaving the chamber in shocked silence. Chancellor Morden's color had shifted to determined orange. Well, it seems some lessons must be taught more than once. Ambassador Lee stood slowly. Chancellor, the Human Federation requests permission to address this threat under Article 7 of the Mutual Defense Protocols. Granted. Lee activated his personal communicator. This is Ambassador Lee to Fleet Command. Execute Operation Lighthouse immediately. Within minutes, the chamber's sensors began detecting massive energy signatures as ships dropped out of hyperspace around the Council station. But these were not just human vessels. Admiral O smiled as he read the tactical display. Joint Fleet is in position. 67 human vessels, 53 Andromedan ships, 41 ethereal collective dreadnoughts, 38 ships from the reformed Vorlani Republic, and 25 vessels from 6 other allied species. How did you assemble such a force so quickly? Asked Secretary General Yeath in amazement. Because this is what cooperation looks like, Lee replied. The moment our sensors detected the Restoration Armada forming, every member of the new galactic Accords began coordinating response plans. Dr. Song added with quiet pride. The Joint Fleet has been training together for 8 months. Shared technology, integrated command structures, cooperative tactics. This is not just an alliance. This is a new form of defense based on mutual respect rather than domination. The Chamber's communication system activated again. This time, the display showed a joint command bridge with representatives from all major fleet components. Council of Equals, announced Fleet Admiral Kim Yun-soo. The combined defense force is ready to respond to any aggression against member systems. Beside her, Andromedan Fleet Commander Morthex's crystal form pulsed with determination. The Restoration Armada fields approximately 400 vessels. Our combined force includes over 600 ships, with integrated technology that exceeds their individual capabilities. War Sage Nixal of the